I look at children, I don't see anything sexually arousing. I can't like this. Here's the thing about people gotta understand. When you're abused, these are things that goes through your mind. It just can't, because you're trying to find a reason, a justification, a something to understand. What we're gonna do. The nurture is a bad guy. This is gonna be a bum ass video. I can't wait. It's so serious. All right, peoples. Hi everyone. Welcome back to Culture Healing. I'm so sad that this is not working. But apart from that being said, we are back with another series, well, another installation of this series. And today I'm joined by the cool and awesome Toni. Right, so today we are doing the nurturer is the bad guy for this series. As I tell people before, this series is only being focused on people who were sexually abused. If you are here and we are talking about something that doesn't imply that, it can still help you, but most of it are going to be focused around the mind and the emotion and reaction of a sexually abused person. So today's episode is the nurturer is the bad guy, people. So I think focusing on that is you saying, first of all, that whomever is that, let's say, for instance, in my case where I live with my nurturer and he became my bad guy, he then paved the way for my future relationships, the future reactions from certain things as well. So that is basically how this topic is going to go, right? So welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Yes. So, Tones, what is your narrative for your
The first thing pop in my head is they protect you but hurt you.
Right.
Like, and it sounds weird. That's all, because I wrote that down. Like, that sounds kind of weird. But the nurturer being a bad guy, I think it is a very weird connection.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that pops in my head is the trauma bond. Like, that bond that's created with your nurturer is normally not a bad bond.
Mm-hmm.
But with a bad guy, it's like it get a little tricky.
Iffy, yes.
Right. But it's like, if you're nurturing to me, you are that. You're nurturing. you make sure I'm good. You make sure, like, the nurturer feeds us, clothes us, especially, we're talking about the inner child when we were children. So it's like the nurturer, even in adult life too, because you got the abuser. It's still, to me, it's all one and the same. Like, you got domestic violence. It's still, like you said, abuse within itself.
Yes.
Create a bond with your bad guy. And that's why I'm like, I'm still getting the energy of trauma bonds and the actual abuse itself. And I think it's a safety net that we create to try to get on. I don't want to say get on their good side. I feel like it's a subconscious bond. Because the bad guy, you can't really get rid of the bad guy. At least you don't know how. Like, how do I get rid of the bad guy? So I think the mind just tries to
process.
Like trying to cope in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's actually really interesting because it's a subconscious thing to it. I wrote victim to victim realization as well, because I feel like a lot of bad guys it's almost feel like they want something from you. And it's like, what do you like, what do you
what
want?
do you want? Yeah. What else what it is that you want that's gonna hurt me as well? I think a lot of us think about too. Like most of the time when our bad guy wants something, we also get hurt in the process of the want that they have. And for your nurturer, for instance, my nurturer related to me, I live with my nurturer as well. And that can be the most confusing dynamic that can be created in a person's mind, honestly. For my case now with my thing, I instantly had a connection with mine because mine is my father. And I grew up knowing that this is that. I grew up knowing that this is what's supposed to happen. But then my knowing changed from the nurturing, loving, sometimes scolding to a basic adult version of what the heck is this, right? Because your mind's still processing what that means, right? But then when that happened, it feel like this is something that you're supposed to do because this is your only influence, right? So you feel like this is something I'm supposed to do. I don't think that is bad because I don't know, right? So then when you grow up now, you realize, okay, this is actually bad. Why is this happening? What is this dynamic? As you get older, you don't see other children or hear other children talking that way, that their parents are doing that. So you're like, so why is my parent different? Why is my upbringing different from other people's upbringing? It confuses the heck out of you completely. So then your nurturer now is there to teach you how to love, to teach you how to everything in your stability. And then they're going to confuse that with, if I give you this, this is what I want in return, right? That just borderline makes you like, I don't want to do anything at all, right? It just makes you borderline thinking like, I just want the hurt to stop, right? So it confuses people, that the dynamic of a relationship from your nurturers.
I think it is confusing, and it's funny because when you talk, it reminds me of how important our stories are, right? Because this is why it's like really good to, well, I'm gonna say it's really important to identify with who your nurturer is, because I got a couple different bad guys. And that's why I was like, this is gonna be an interesting episode because it fucked my own head up, honestly.
Right.
It's deep. Like, so my first, so my first couple bad guys were my cousin's dads, and another was my mom's boyfriend. So it's like one of them. And I think that within itself it actually wasn't my father, so to speak. You know, like, so it was that was very weird for me, because I'm like, I never really had a relationship with my dad that I can remember, and all of the men that came after him hurt me. Like they were either molesting me, raping me, they were doing something, beating me. They were doing something to me that had me just confused with men, period. Quite honestly, it's like, what is a nurturer? You know what I mean? Like, what are you supposed to be doing? So I could relate to you with that. It's like, what's actually supposed to be happening here? Because unfortunately for me, it was very consistent. So I'm like, is all of these like creeps? Like, or all these, is this what men do? Like, do men always just want to touch on little girls and stuff like that, from my perspective? And then like the one, when I was getting raped repeatedly, that nurturer definitely messed my head up, because he was very nice to us all. Like, he was very nice. He was very, made sure we ate. Like, he did the basics of what really, like, anybody really supposed to do.
Provider.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then it's like, he literally would turn into a bad guy.
Right.
Everybody went to sleep.
Right.
Like, now I'm getting,
the boogeyman.
The fucking boogeyman. Like, I didn't even want to go to sleep, because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to go to sleep, because me up when everybody else go to sleep and sleep in a room. So it's like, it's like stuff like that is actually like real messed up.
It is. And I feel like the concept of a grown person seeing a child as a woman or as a adult being, to me, I can't fully comprehend. I don't even want to comprehend such a thing. And for me, as I come through my healing process, I'm like, I look at children, I don't see anything sexually arousing. I can't like this. Here's the thing about people gotta understand. When you're abused, these are things that goes through your mind. It just can't, because you're trying to find a reason, a justification, a something to understand the mind of how you as a grown adult can see a child as that. It fucks with you completely. And these are the ingrained things that people don't talk about when being abused. And this is why this series needs to happen, because these are the things that go through your abuser's mind. How can you see me in this light? What is it, right? And then you get those people who are abused, where they just want to wear big clothes. They don't want people to see them physically. They don't want to stand out, to look too pretty. They don't want to just be noticed. They don't want the attention of people. So when you see your male or your female girls lashing out, or don't want people to touch them, or they all of a sudden, you know, are good with their beauty, and then all of a sudden they just wearing big clothes, don't want people to tell them that they're cute or they look good or whatever, because in our minds, you giving us a compliment means that you want something from us. Right. You want to touch us in ways that we don't want you to touch us. Like for me growing up, I look good. My shape looked good. I always had a good shape as a child. This is how I grown up to be in this good shape and as an adult. But that was somebody seeing me in a sexual light, right? So it wasn't just him that saw me like that, right? There were guys in the neighborhood that saw me that way. There were people when I came here, when we ran here, that saw me that way. And I'm like, why is that? Everyone that see me, no matter what, it is instant, oh, I want to have sex with you, right? So it kind of play on your mind in that way. And what it is that I actually just revealed is that he was not my only attacker. Believe it, right? He was not my only attacker. After running from that attacker, I run into another attacker as well, right? So going to your adulthood, you're like, what the hell? So for me, I didn't want to stand out. So I start not being that way. I start not looking this. But then I got old. I'm like, yo, your shape is something you cannot run from. This thing here, understand? So you learn to defend yourself. And this is where my masculine came into play. He defended me because I'm like, I can't run from the way that I look. I look good. My body shape good. I'm a freaking African, right? We shape good. Right. Right. So
none about it.
But so I can't run from it. I can't be an excuse for men who over sexualize the way that I look. But what I can do is defend myself. So I start to get angry. I start to push out this angry persona, because that was the only way I feel I could protect myself. I couldn't protect myself under my nurturer. I had to learn mind play to protect myself from my nurturer. I live with my nurturer, right? So I had to learn how to manipulate certain situations. If it's so that he would call me or tell me that he want to see me or whatever, I will manipulate the situation and say, no, I'm gonna go spend some of the weekend or whatever at my grandmother, or going out with my friends. When I got old enough to go somewhere, I leave the house consistently, right? So let's talk about you becoming a master strategist, having to run from your nurturer, because I mean you lived with the guy, right?
I didn't live with my nurturer.
You didn't spend summers.
I was summers, weekends. Mom needs somebody to watch the kids.
Right.
This was going. So it was honestly, it was a lot, because it's like I was the only child, and I am still the only child, so I didn't have anybody home with me. And at the time, you know, it was either stay home by yourself, which was already scary as hell.
Right.
Or, you know, I didn't really have, it's weird because as I got older, it's like I didn't even have an option. Like, I didn't have an option. My story is really, really kind of weird. Because like I said, I was staying home by myself, I think at like from 5, 6, I was staying home. And then it's like, as I got older, I had to go and stay with other people.
Right.
And it's like nowhere that I went, it was always someone touching me. Whether it was other kids, unfortunately, you know, whether it was older kids, whether it was grown ass adults. It It always confused me, honestly. Growing up, I actually started to realize that I was kind of more quiet.
Come on.
And I would have like, you know, moments where I would be loud, where I kind of like outbursts almost, like where I would be like, I gotta be free. Like when I would go to school, I would be so hyped, like I gotta turn up. I believe like when I was in places where I was supposed to be protected, I didn't actually feel that way. So I was very skeptical about how I would even engage when they were around, to be honest. And I think that made it worse to a certain extent for me, because then all of the adults would think, oh, she's so mature for her age. And I'm not saying that it wasn't true, but
you were forced to.
That's what I'm saying. It was definitely a force behind it. But then after a while, I felt like I couldn't even turn it off anymore. So it's very similar to what you were saying. Like I couldn't even turn off my quote unquote maturity. My abuser, like the one that actually ended up raping me for the longest, he thought I was like his best friend. Like, and he would call me his girlfriend. And it used to fuck my head up, because I'm just like, but I don't want to be your girlfriend. Like, I don't want to be your girlfriend. But it didn't seem like I had a choice. So it's funny how that plays into, I could see me growing up, and I'm like, I could see how that played into, you know, middle school, where I wanted a boyfriend. I'm like, no, I gotta find another boyfriend. Like, I don't want him to be my boyfriend. Like, and I remember when he used to write me from prison. I told you he went and he got locked up. He didn't get locked up for what he did to me, but he did end up going to prison. And he used to write me from prison, and he used to remind me of all of the stuff that he used to do. But it was more, for him, it wasn't horrible. It was like you do with your man, like remembering the good times and shit. Like, so I remember, like, that's when I really started getting triggered in middle school, and I'm like, what the hell happened to me, and what's happening? Like, so it's weird, because like you're saying, like he forced himself on me literally, and then mentally he confused the hell. They all confused the hell out of me, but this particular one would talk to me and tell me like, no, we together. And then when we get older, or when you get older, we're going to come out to your family and tell them we going to be together and all this other shit. And I'm just like, no, but I was scared to say no. Like, it was weird. But then he also didn't threaten me either. So I think it's something about people being so confident in that discomfort that makes the victim even more uncomfortable. Because it's like, I didn't even know how to say anything with him, honestly. Like, by then I was already kind of mute, but I was already being touched so much that I thought it was just a part of whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember a time where I wasn't touched. Somebody was touching me. Like, somebody touched me, and I'm like, what the? And for me, it's like almost the opposite, because I've always been very petite. Like, I that's made me more confused. Like, I got like a baby body. Like, I didn't have like a real big butt or real big boobs or nothing. So I'm just like, what do you
find attractive?
I didn't get it. And then I think it made it worse, because then I went through the natural, you know, puberty and stuff like that, where I was getting teased for being skinny. I was getting teased for being dark skinned. I was getting teased for, you know, the same features that these grown-ups seemed to be attracted to. So that shit was even weird. Like, well, what? Only grown-ups like me. You know, kids don't like me. Like, people my age didn't want me. But adults was like, what's up? So you know what I mean? Like, that was real interesting as well.
I think for mine too, it confuses me as well, because in terms of, mine didn't call me a girlfriend, but mine would treat me like for instance, I remember a few times my mom leave, and I know for a fact, thinking about that, I know for a fact my mom idea of going to see my grandmother or whatever, because they live far, wasn't her idea. I really and truly, when I think about it, it wasn't her idea, because how a mom is going to go visit her relative and leave her other children, her daughter, home. Like, that makes no sense to me. If you're going to go somewhere, you can carry all your damn children with you in it. So for me, I know for a fact that she didn't just up and leave and go places without me. So with that, now I am home, and however long they went, and I'm basically a whole wife. Understand? You know what I mean? So it confuses you as I get older now. It made me think like there are certain things that I don't like to do, and I started like, for me, I don't like cooking. I refuse to learn to cook because I see what you having to cater to somebody. I don't like that catering thing when it comes to catering to a man. Like for me, that used to like crawl my skin. Like, wait, you don't got a hand, you can't cook. You don't got a hand, you can't help out. Like that shit triggers the heck out of me, right? So then I'm like, why is this trigger? Because I grew up seeing that dynamic where this man behaved entitled. He have his cake in one house and eating it as well, right? So for me, when it came to, I feel like living with him meant I was living with the master president of the world, where if the president said the world is not ending and the freaking earth is split open, the world is gonna believe God is that the world ain't ending, even though it's right there in sight that the world is ending. That is who I grew up around. He was extremely well known. He had a lot of influences. He knew people, right? Like if he called for a favor, these people are gonna drop what they're doing to give him a favor, right? The community loved him completely, right? The family looked up to him in a way I to this day don't really get why, because he really and truly didn't really used to do much, but the community looked up to him. Like if he decided to run for mayor in the community, the men would back him. Like when he go off to his job, because he was a fisherman, when he go off to his job, the community got our back. They make sure, because we had a shop, they make sure that we were good. The shop was locked up. The men would leave last to make sure we were fine. He'd take care of us, to help us out, like all of those different things that he used to do. So with me growing up, seeing the influences he have from people coming to have his advice, all of those things, who the hell am I gonna tell, right? And not just only that, my mom, I can't go to my mom. He used to hit her. What was there to do? When she do go to my grandmother don't know what to do either. She's like, man, don't worry about it, it's gonna pass, don't talk to nobody, all of these things. So we're all seeing this dynamic, because remember, when you're being abused, kid, you automatically become the observer because you want to out. So you got to know, if I tell this person and this person go back and tell this person, I may get hurt. So I need to know who I can trust, right? In your mind, you start to become calculated in the things that you want to do, because you want to out, but you don't know how to do it out. So when I first did tell somebody, and this person's like, well, we got to go talk to him. So I was like, all right, if you talk to he, no problem. Talk to he, then nothing happened. Who gets the blowback? Me. I get the blowback. What is my blowback? A ass whooping. So I can't do much about it. You know what I mean? Where are we gonna go at this point? If mom decides to know something, where we going? Where we gonna live? How we can feed? She got 3 other children. What's gonna happen there, right? So for me, I had to grow up fast in terms of me being the protector of the things around me, the people around me. So I had to be like, you know what? I kind of have to set this shit up until things happen. And it so happened that my out was me getting pregnant. When I got pregnant, now the family started to ask questions, right? And that's when things got like, wait, what now? Okay, this don't sound right. She is 10. She just had a period and she's pregnant. From who? Who's this? But then not knowing that he made up a whole facade, tell me to tell them that, well, it's some boy. Who boy? Where is this boy? Does he even exist? Right? Then the idiot family that I grew up into believe that there is no out. It took a second pregnancy for them to really say, you know what, I'm a shipper out. Then when they did ship me out, it's like he still found me. So then they had to ship me out of the country. Right? So I'm like, at the end of the day, I know there are people out there that had worst case scenario, but people like me always trying to see how we can make things better, right? What we can do so blowback don't get to us. And for something to happen to a child that young, we are still computing certain things. For the thing for us to compute is to protect ourselves, right? How to manipulate a situation so we can be good, type of thing, right? It creates blowback because I told people, but there was no solution. It took me having to have my womb be in such of pain and brokenness for me to get free from a situation like that. It is some stupid shit. That's the best I could put it as. It is some stupid shit. But remember, our community is so broken and designed to be this broken that people like us don't have a safe haven to go and say, this is what's happened to me and have justice. We don't have that in our community.
Girl. That shit good. This is real shit, yo.
It is.
This is some real rap. Like, it's because it's taking me back. Like, I felt the same way. Like, I didn't. And I think for me, when I started getting older and consciously trying to figure out, my connection with my nurturer / bad guy, I kept trying to figure out, why didn't I tell? I'm like, why didn't I say nothing? And then that's what made me, get deeper into isolation when I started thinking about the other incidents that happened before that incident actually even happened. And that's when I realized, like, not being believed at 5, not being believed at 6. It's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Naturally, like you said, we now we got to go into defending ourselves, like you said. And then even that is like, I didn't stop getting raped until he got locked up. When he got locked up, he still kept writing me about it for like another maybe 2 years or 3 years, where those eventually kind of just stopped. I can't remember what took place, but they just kind of stopped. And then it was like, oh, thank God. But by then, I mean, like you said, I just kept running into other similar things. It definitely, what was I going to say when you said something earlier about, because they're so attached to us too. I think that's, like you said, we trying to figure out that big why. Like, why are you bothering me? Like, and I think that's something that you never get the answer. You never really get the answer to that. And we spend so much time trying
to figure it out, B. I'm telling you.
Listening to you talk, like, yo, some shit, like some stuff you just won't really know.
No.
Like, it's so sad. Like you said, it's just like, cause I kept thinking, that's what made me start thinking, actually, when I think about it, into this whole inner child thing. Because I'm like, when he would talk to me, he would treat me like we were on the same level. So I think I stopped looking at myself. I stopped looking as a child. Right. I stopped looking at him as an adult, and I started looking at him as a kid mentally. Like, something is not right here. Like I said, later down the line, then we find out what they went through when they were younger. But it's kind of weird that, like, a part of them almost never really grew up. It's so weird. Like, it's just so weird. Like,
I get what you're saying, because for me, mine would he had this manipulative streak where he made you feel safe, right? There was this thing about him that he made you feel like, yeah, I'm gonna protect you, I'm gonna do good by you, I'm gonna represent you, and then I'm gonna hurt you next, right? And it's like, whoa, whiplash much, right? So I had to live through those moments of whiplash where I'm like, you know what? Niceness comes to bad. I'ma just chill when the niceness happen. I'ma just draw back when the niceness happen, right? And for me, I had to distinguish the figuring out what is a father to what it is I'm having here. I wouldn't even call it a boyfriend, because that's just nasty to me.
It is.
So it's like you trying one time to discipline me as a parent, and then the other time you're trying to make me some Barbie doll, some sexual Barbie doll. So like it was always a balance in my head. I lose the respect of who he is. I start to look at him as just the bad guy. It was just the bad guy. So when it is that I'm getting my beating, when it is that I'm being used as whatever the case is, he was just the bad guy. So I learned to go out of my body when things would happen. I would just take myself out of there, watch my body go through her thing. When it's done, lick my womb and continue living type of scenario. So when you visit stories like us, it shows you how we never received loving. We don't know how to self-love. All we knew how to do was survive. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So sorry about that, guys. So that's what he's good for. He's good for like throwing his weight around, but he wasn't crude about well, I don't know what's the word I could use, but he threw his weight around everywhere. That's the best that he does. That's why people feared him. That's why people never used to come at him in any way. But he always trying to hit somebody or do something to somebody. So with that, see how your nurturer is your bad guy? How that plays into things.
Because they wear masks.
Right?
They had different masks. It's funny because like me now, I could see people's masks. And I can't turn it off. I'm like, I can see your mask. I can see. So it's like that's the brighter side to it all, because now once you do make it out of all that stuff, you still have this same knowledge. Like that knowledge that we try so hard to create for survival is literally all we have now. And it's like, okay, like you said, then you kind of rebalance it out, masculine and feminine energy. And then you a whole force to be reckoned with. That now they fear us and on a whole nother way.
It is.
Yeah, I didn't like, he was my nurturer. I said this before. He was he was technically a part of the family, because like I said, he
your aunt's husband or something like that, right?
Her baby dad, yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, unfortunately, all of my abusers were someone's dad. Like I have a cousin and it was their father, or it was one of my mom's boyfriends. And it was never my dad. But my dad, like I said, my dad did know and my mom didn't know. So I think this still falls into the nurturer being the bad guy, because both of my parents did know about what happened to me when I was 5 and didn't do anything about it. So I think once I realized that, that's when I decided to go no contact with my family so I can actually heal. Because it was like everything else started to make so much more sense. It's like, here I am thinking that he's the bad guy and he's the bad guy and he's the bad guy. But then I had to think like, well, what would that make my parents if
right. They're still nurturer is the bad guy as well. Yes.
It was very confusing. And like I said, subconsciously, I knew the truth. I knew it too. It took years for the truth to resurface mentally for me. But subconsciously, I was always aware of it, which made sense as to why my relationship with my mom wasn't what it could have been. And the relationship with my dad was non-existent. It was like, you left me. And I think the guy that ended up raping me for the 2 years, he was like this with my dad growing up. So he would, like, when we had our situation, my dad wasn't even around. So he would use that as a tool as well. Like, I'm literally listening to my dad from this man that's raping me. Like, he telling me, yeah, your dad, he was this and that when he was younger. I never thought he would be, a deadbeat. I never thought, like, he would do that emotional shit to me. And then it didn't make it any better that my mom was working all the time and dropping me off over there. So that's when I think the trauma bond was even created to be even stronger, because he knew my life. Like, he knew why I was always over there. He knew why my dad wasn't around. He knew certain stuff, and he would literally use that. At the time, I didn't even understand it. So again, that's when I'm like, that was when the trauma bond was more created stronger, because now I'm thinking I got a friend with this man and he's not. Like, you're not my friend. Whereas though, I was going to talk about when you was talking about how we leave our body. I didn't know I was leaving my body until I went to counseling. And I was asking my counselor, you know, like, why don't I remember but so much of it? And that's when we came to realize that I was actually I was blacking out. I was pissed. Like she said, once I realized what was going on and that it was going to keep happening, I just started blacking out completely. Because I couldn't remember. I can remember it starting and I can remember it finishing. And I couldn't really see anything in the midst of that. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. But so that's what I wanted to say too, because I got my period maybe not even a year after being penetrated by him. Did you get your period before you end up getting pregnant?
I got my period at 10. Mine was at 10, but my body, because remember, he's ejaculating into me.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, so my body started to change. My breast came early, but not early as in it got big, but you can see the little butts coming out. My body full out, blown. My body came into its own extremely early as well. So my body started shaped up. I started to get thick. I was never a fat girl. So I started to get thick and I started to look womanly, basically. So, but I did get my period at 10.
And then that's the same time that you got pregnant too.
Yes, I think I got pregnant, I guess, maybe a few months later in that year or something like that area. Yeah. And then things start to go from there. In terms of, but he was never cautious. Like, he's so accustomed to the 4 years that we had where he can, you know, do what he needs to do. So when I did get my period, it was never I should be careful that she's going to get pregnant. It was I'm going to continue, you know, doing what I'm supposed to do. And with that too, in my situation or any girl situation, but from my situation, because this is why I love this series where she have a different perspective with herself and I have my perspective with me now, that created my mentality to see men as just wanting me for sex. So as I get older and I decided I had my first boyfriend, I figured, well, you know, sex is that. This is what it is that we do. So I figured that sex would be it. So I never used to look for anything because my nurturer giving me stuff and taking from me. So I never used to want to accept things from people. So that used to make me feel like really weird taking things from people. So I had my first relationship and my relationship was for me mostly based on me having sex with this person, right? And then this person started to hit me and I figured, well, that is what is normal because hell, my nurturer had sex and hit me at the same time too. So it messes up your mentality when you start to have your own relationships and relationship with people. I never used to talk a lot because I figured I had nothing to offer. I didn't know what I would be saying. I used to be quiet a lot, right? So I lost my voice basically because when you try to tell people about your pain or try to vocalize yourself, right? And then people shut you down all the time, right? It messes with you. Like for instance, there was a Father's Day that I remember, and I gave him a Father's Day card. Again, I am being a daughter in this moment,
right?
And I give him a Father's Day card, and I put something, love you that. But then when I look around, So thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope that you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for coming to my page. So I would like for you to subscribe, and I also want you to watch the last video, and I hope that you enjoy everything on my channel. Thank you.